Unsolved Mystery, The Vanishing Family. Nobody can explain. If you think families can't simply vanish into thin air, think again. It was a warm summer evening in Prince George, British Columbia, in 1989. The lights inside the Jack family's modest home glowed softly against the darkening sky. Ronald and Doreen Jack had just tucked their two boys, 9-year-old Russell and 4-year-old Ryan, into bed. From the outside, everything looked ordinary. But within hours, their lives, and the lives of everyone who knew them, would become part of one of Canada's greatest unsolved mysteries. Neighbors remember the sound of a truck pulling up outside. It was late, too late for visitors. Ronald stepped outside to meet the man behind the wheel. He was described as friendly, rough-looking, but persuasive. He told Ronald about a job, good pay, steady work, something in the logging camps. Ronald had been struggling to keep his family afloat. Doreen, worried but hopeful, agreed to listen. Soon, the offer seemed real enough to change their fortunes. The family was promised a ride to the job site. The man said he'd return in the morning to take them all. The next day, the Jack family packed light bags. No one saw them after that. They never showed up for work. Their truck stayed in the driveway, untouched. Inside the house, the kitchen table was still set. A pot of coffee had gone cold. It was as if the family had simply stepped outside, and then dissolved into the night. Police were called within days, but the trail was thin. Friends swore Ronald wouldn't just run away. Doreen's relatives were certain she'd never leave without calling. But there were no signs of struggle, no ransom notes, and no fingerprints pointing to foul play. Just silence. Rumors spread quickly through Prince George. Some believed the mysterious man in the truck was part of a larger crime ring. Others whispered about debts, or secret lives, or someone trying to escape. The story took on an eerie life of its own. Parents kept their children inside. People locked their doors earlier at night. The town felt haunted by the absence of one family, and the nagging question of why them. Decades later, the case is still open. The Jack family's faces remain on missing posters. Their names are still whispered by those who remember that night. For years, police have chased dead ends and false confessions. Each time, hope rises, only to collapse again. It is a story frozen in time. The night a family stepped into a stranger's truck and was swallowed whole by mystery. And yet, there is one chilling detail. A witness later admitted he saw the family that night, climbing into the truck with the unknown man. They were smiling, the children sleepy but calm. It was the last time anyone ever saw Ronald, Doreen, Russell, and Ryan Jack alive. The cliffhanger? Police never found the man who offered them work. He simply disappeared too. The days after the Jack family vanished were filled with confusion, whispers, and fear. Police combed through the streets of Prince George, knocking on doors, searching the forests, and interviewing neighbors. But the trail was already cold. There were no signs of a struggle in the house, no footprints leading into the woods, no strange vehicles parked nearby. Only that one haunting clue, the mysterious man in the truck who had promised them a job. But who was he? Officers interviewed dozens of locals in hopes of identifying him. Some described him as heavy-set, with dark hair and a scruffy beard. Others insisted he looked clean-cut, polite, and trustworthy. The descriptions never matched. Every time someone thought they recognized him, the lead went nowhere. It was as though he was a ghost, drifting into their lives for one night and vanishing forever. The theories began to spiral. One detective quietly suggested organized crime might be involved, and no paycheck ever surfaced with the Jack name attached. Still, the possibility weighed heavily on investigators. Ronald's family insisted he wasn't the type to mix with criminals. He was a hard worker, a devoted father, and desperate for honest income. Doreen was equally cautious, especially with two young boys. Would they really have gone willingly into danger? False leads poured in. A truck driver reported seeing a family matching their description hundreds of miles away in Alberta. Another tip claimed they had crossed the border into the U.S. with new identities. Each story fueled fresh hope, but none checked out. In every direction investigators looked, they found nothing but empty roads and dead ends. The fear grew. Prince George residents began to wonder if the family had ever left town at all. Some whispered that the mysterious man might not have been real, that maybe someone much closer to the family was involved. An uncle, a friend, a co-worker. Detectives quietly investigated those around them, asking hard questions. But no one broke. No one slipped up. Years later, one disturbing fact emerged from an overlooked witness statement. A neighbor swore she heard a child crying late that night, hours after the family supposedly left in the truck. She thought it was strange, a sound carried on the wind, a boy's voice calling for his mother. But when she looked outside, she saw nothing. Was it Russell? Was it Ryan? Or was it just imagination twisted by fear? That chilling memory opened a new line of thought. What if the Jacks never made it out of town at all? What if something happened before they ever reached that logging camp? The idea terrified locals. It suggested the danger was still there, hidden in plain sight, walking among them. But then came the most disturbing twist of all. A man came forward years later, claiming he was the one who offered Ronald work that night. He even gave details about the conversation, what was said, what time he arrived, and how the children looked half asleep when they climbed into the truck. But just as investigators thought they had a breakthrough, the man's story collapsed. He changed his account. He contradicted himself. He offered no proof. In the end, police labeled him a liar chasing attention. Yet the damage was done. If someone could insert themselves into the story with such detail, what did that mean for the truth? Was he lying? Or was he telling part of a story that others wanted buried? And then came the rumor that froze the community. A former logger claimed to have seen a truck, the same color, the same style, parked deep in the woods weeks after the family vanished. He swore he saw small shoes tossed in the back, but by the time police searched the site, the truck was gone. If the Jacks had made it into the forest, what really happened to them out there? The deeper investigators dug, the stranger the story became. By the late 1990s, nearly a decade after the Jack family's disappearance, the case had grown cold. Files sat in dusty boxes. Evidence was thin. But families don't just vanish. Not 4 people. Not a mother, a father, and 2 children. And then, a strange breakthrough came from technology. In the early 2000s, RCMP officers tested old items from the Jack house with new forensic methods. A partial fingerprint was discovered on the front door. Not Ronald's, not Doreen's, and not anyone known to the family. For a moment, hope returned. Maybe this was the man in the truck, maybe this was their lead. But when compared against national databases, the print matched no one. To this day, its owner has never been identified. A silent reminder that someone else was inside that house and walked away free. Over the years, countless theories have been written in newspapers, whispered in bars, and debated by locals. Some believe the Jacks were taken by a serial predator who traveled logging roads, looking for families to lure. Others argue Ronald might have trusted the wrong person, someone he thought was a friend. There were even whispers that the family was relocated under a witness protection program, hidden away because Ronald saw something he should not have. But no proof has ever surfaced. The emotional toll is unbearable. Doreen's relatives still leave gifts at Christmas, believing Russell and Ryan deserve to grow up, to play, to live. Ronald's friends still describe him as the man who wanted nothing more than steady work and a safe home. The weight of the silence has lasted generations. And then came the darkest twist. In the mid-2000s, a man already convicted of violent crimes in the region claimed from prison that he knew what happened to the Jacks. He said they were taken to an isolated logging road and killed, their remains buried in an unmarked site. He even described details about the children, details never released to the public. For a brief moment, investigators thought the truth was finally here. But just as suddenly, the inmate recanted. He said he was lying for attention, or perhaps for favors. His words poisoned the case, leading nowhere. Still, some detectives believe he revealed fragments of truth, only to smother them in lies. And so the mystery deepened. No bodies, no arrests, no closure, only a family frozen in time, smiling in photographs, missing from life. The story ends with a haunting reality. Sometimes, evil does not leave fingerprints. Sometimes, it erases everything, leaving only shadows and questions. They thought the case had finally gone quiet. But 8 years later, another family in northern British Columbia disappeared under chillingly similar circumstances. How can a family vanish with so little trace? Subscribe so you don't miss it.